In this video, we'll be taking a look at getting around in Maya, navigating the interface, and simple object manipulation. Getting around in Maya is quite simple. You need a 3-button mouse for the best efficiency, and you'll obviously want to have a keyboard. You're going to hold down the Alt key, use the left, the middle, or the right mouse button on your 3-button mouse. You can also use the scroll wheel, if you have one on your mouse, to truck your camera in and out. If you prefer not to do that, you can always turn that off by going into Window, Settings Preferences, and bringing up the Preferences window. Here under the interface, you can disable the mouse scroll wheel if you so wish. Manipulating objects in Maya is also very simple. To select an object, simply click on it. To select more than one object, just hold down the Shift key and click on multiple objects. To deselect an object, you can hold down the Shift key and that will toggle its selection, or you'll hold down the Control key when you select and that will deselect. You can draw a marquee window to select multiple objects at once. And then clicking anywhere outside of an object will deselect everything in the scene. Now, once you have an object selected, you're probably going to want to do something with it. In this object, we already have an animation, so let's set about doing something with the torus. Using the toolbox, you can move, rotate, or scale the object. And whenever you press the W, E, or R keys, you can also move, rotate, and scale as well. Depending on the tool that you have, you'll see a manipulator show up. This manipulator for move allows you to freely move the object within the plane of your view by grabbing the yellow box in the middle, or moving it purely by its own single axis. Here we've got the Z, this is the Y axis, and this is the X axis. Same thing with rotate. You've got a manipulator that allows you to rotate on single axes, or if you grab the cyan circle, it allows you to rotate the object in the plane of your view. If you select anywhere within the rotate manipulator, you'll also be able to rotate completely freely within the 3D space. And going to scale, again by pressing R, you'll be able to uniformly scale it by selecting the box in the middle or scaling it along only one of the axes. Now, 3D space in Maya is based on the Cartesian coordinate system, which gives you an X, Y, and a Z axis. You can see in the lower left-hand part of the viewport, we have the world axis, meaning this axis is always going to be part of the world. It will never change. The X will always be this way, the Y always up, and the Z always out. You rotate around the world axis, the axis will turn with you. However, when you have an object and you change it, its axis is now offset from the world axis. You can see the Y axis of this object allows you to be able to move that object in its own up direction, or its own Z left to right, or its own X back and forth axis. That is different than the world axis because this local or object axis has been rotated and is now different. Now, that's not to say you can't move an object in strictly the world axis. Let's go ahead and put a nice rotation on this donut. And what I'll do is I'll want to move it straight up in the world Y axis. But if I grab the Y, it's only going to take it in the object's axis. If I go to the Move tool and double click it, the tool settings will appear. And here you can change your move axis from object to world. and that'll allow me to move that object within the confines of just the world's Y up. One of the nice interface options in Maya is something called a marking menu. This marking menu allows you to very quickly access functions and tools for a specific object. For example, if I choose to edit this object by changing one of its faces, I can go into face selection mode simply by right-clicking on the object, moving my mouse to highlight face, and releasing the mouse button. And this puts me into a component selection mode that allows me to select just the faces of the object. Similarly, I can right-click on the object and go back into object mode and select the object as a whole. Now within the view panel itself, pressing the keys 4 and 5 allow you to switch between 4 wireframe and 5 shaded view, which is the same as going into the shading menu for the view panel and selecting wireframe or smooth shade. Furthermore, it's really quite easy to see if you have textures on your objects by pressing 6. 4, 5, 6. And 6 gives you a hardware preview of any textures that you may have assigned to your objects. And lastly, pressing 7 on your keyboard allows you to get a lighting preview if you have any lights in your scene. This allows you to get an idea of what your lights are doing in your scene. So 4, 5, 6, and 7. You can also press 5 and then 7 and get a lighting preview in just the gray shaded. You may also see when you press the space bar and hold it, you've got all of Maya's menus that show up in this menu preview as well. And you can access any of these menus just like you would the menus up here. While you're getting used to Maya and getting used to how you best work with this tool, it's best to use everything at its default and to go the long way into the menus up here and the menu sets to get familiar with where everything is and what sort of workflow works best before starting to customize and use things like the marking menus. In this video, we took a quick look at object manipulation and just generally how to get around Maya and its 3D space.